distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the National Committee on American Foreign Policy, it is my privilege to welcome you to today's panel discussion on strategic and tactical challenges facing the U.S. intelligence community. Today's program is the third event in our series titled U.S. Security in the 21st Century. It is now my privilege to introduce Ambassador John Negroponte. Ambassador Negroponte Ambassador Negroponte, a career diplomat and national security official, has served our country for over 40 years as ambassador to the United Nations, Iraq, Mexico, the Philippines, and Honduras. He has also served twice on the National Security Council and as the first director of National Intelligence, and in the recent past as Deputy Secretary of State. For his extraordinary service to the country, Ambassador Negroponte has received numerous awards, including the State Department's Distinguished Service Medal on 2 separate occasions, the National Security Medal, and the National Committee on American Foreign Policy's George F. Kennan Award for Distinguished Public Service. Ambassador Negroponte, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, George. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, fellow panelists. I welcome this opportunity. I take it we're on the record, are we, George? Is that the agreement?
If you so prefer.
Yeah, no, I want to be sure that's what the ground rules are. It's just fine by me. I don't think there's much different that I would tell you about intelligence off the record. So I would do that at my own peril. I thought perhaps since we've got several of us here and a limited amount of time to talk this evening, perhaps I could try to set it up by looking at the backgrounds of the other panelists. Maybe they'll be more focused on a bit on some of the analytical challenges that we face in the intel community. I come at it somewhat from an organizational point of view, since I was, after all, the first director of national intelligence. But I'd like to start with an attempt to define intelligence. It's very brief. It comes from a draft of an article that will be appearing that I co-write with Ted Wittenstein up at Yale University, and we're going to publish in the Yale Law and Policy Review. But we put in our article here, our draft article, as used in this essay, intelligence refers to the process by which specific types of information important to national security are collected, analyzed, and provided to policymakers, the products of that process, and the safeguarding of these processes and this information by counterintelligence activities. The latter point being, of course, if you think you have intelligence, but your adversaries know all the intelligence you haven't really got intelligence. So that'd be my first point. My second is what intelligence is not. And I say that because having served in 8 or 9 different countries abroad, and especially in societies that are perhaps a bit more conspiratorial in nature than the United States, in some of those countries, intelligence is everything. I mean, if you're the director of national intelligence, and I've received this kind of treatment occasionally, you must be, right after the president, you must be the second most powerful person in your country. And you must know everything. There's some sort of magic key there that permits you to know and understand everything. And of course, we all know, that intelligence is not a panacea. It's not that little secret sauce that you get a hold of and then it permits you to understand everything about international relations, national security, and so forth in some kind of a different light. It's a tool. That's all it is. It's a tool. It's a useful tool. It's one that shouldn't be abused, but nor should it be ignored or neglected. So it's a tool in our toolkit as we work to advance our national security and diplomatic interests. Now, I came into this business in two different ways. First of all, anybody who's a diplomat who's got reporting responsibilities as an economic reporting officer or a political reporting officer invariably is basically an overt intelligence collector. You're out there meeting people, collecting information constantly, writing reports. I mean, the definition of a political officer in the Foreign Service Manual is somebody who does reporting, analysis, negotiation, and representation, representing your country to others around the world. So, but where you cut your teeth is in the reporting and the analysis. That's what you do in the earlier stages of your career, and also, frankly, at the culmination of your career, because when the President of the United States or the Secretary of State visits the country to which you're accredited as an ambassador, and he jumps into that limo and you have 15, 20 minutes to brief him or her before reaching the office of the Prime Minister or the Chief of State, you, the ambassador, you can't delegate this function, are responsible for really telling the head of our government what you feel that person really needs to know before the critical meeting or meetings that he's about to have. But in coming into the more specialized function of intelligence, as I did in 2005, was really sort of, I think, a bit of an accidental occurrence. I was minding my own business in downtown Baghdad in January of 2005, running our embassy, when I got a phone call from Andrew Card, the President's Chief of Staff, and he said, would you be interested in being the first director of national intelligence? And, well, I came back, talked to Andy, talked to the President, and yesterday, in fact, was the 5th anniversary of the founding of the Directorate of National Intelligence. And actually that date, what marks that anniversary, it's the 5th anniversary of my having been confirmed by the Senate of the United States for my nomination to that position. We didn't have anything when I was confirmed as Director of National Intelligence. Barely had an office or a telephone number or anybody to answer the phones, and we had to stand it up fairly quickly, which we did. We were in temporary quarters, just in the new executive office building, a couple of blocks from the White House. I focused on a number of issues as we worked to set this organization up. The first issue was the quality of our analysis. It seemed to me that it was our analysis that had really precipitated the intelligence reform, our faulty analysis of the weapons of mass destruction situation, what I call, in shorthand, the WMD fiasco that occurred in 2002, when we got, as one of those commission reports said, just about everything wrong with respect to WMD in Iraq. So analysis and the quality of the intelligence collection that led to that faulty analysis were a major preoccupation. The second issue I worried about was and I think it's really the key in modern intelligence, was the question of integration of all the different collection methodologies and information sharing horizontally across the intelligence community. Actually, it doesn't really matter that much how the intelligence community is organized. The boxes don't really matter on that chart. Some people call that boxology. I mean, it doesn't matter whether there's a DNI or whether you organize the way the British do or the Australians, or everybody's got a slightly different take on the situation. But what is important is if you have several different collection methods, such as human intelligence, signals intelligence, or geospatial intelligence, you have to find ways to integrate that information in a real-time basis and then make sure it gets to the customers on a timely